That's what she said.
You can't start an episode like that. I deeply hope that that was recording and that that's how that episode starts. And if it's not, you just get to hear us all laughing for some unknown reason that we'll keep secret to ourselves forever. All right, everybody. So welcome back to another episode of the Sad Dad Games podcast. Today, we're doing another episode of Eric's Indie Corner. This is a time where I use this platform as an excuse to talk about my favorite indie games. Even if no one wants to listen, I want to talk about it. So, too bad. Today, my name's Eric. I'll be your host today. And today I have joining me are...
I'm Shan.
I'm Tucker.
And I'm Emery.
Right. Very nice. So today, guys, we are going to be talking about a very cool indie game that I'm super excited about. One of my favorites. We're going to be talking about A Short Hike. Yay. We love A Short Hike. So A Short Hike is an open area, cozy platformer. It's kind of how I would describe it. And it is a solo developed game by Adam Robinson Yu. It released on April 5th in 2019 as a very kind of a unique release. It released as a subscriber's benefit for the Humble Monthly program, and later as a standalone game for Microsoft Windows, Mac OS, and Linux, and then about a year later on all major consoles. So, for those of you joining for the first time, this is how I break down indie episodes. We're going to start talking a little bit about the story, then we're going to talk about the gameplay, visuals, and then we'll talk about visuals and sound, and then we'll top it all off with a fun fact and just talking about why we love the game. So to start off, we're going to talk about the story. The story in A Short Hike is pretty simple, but really enjoyable. You play as a small bird named Claire, and you're on a trip visiting your aunt on an island, and you are looking for cell phone reception, and so you decide to hike the mountain to the mountain peak to get cell phone reception because you're awaiting an important call.
I found this to be one of the most relatable stories that I've ever played in a video game.
I need a cell phone reception.
Yeah, the inciting incident is I need cell phone reception, and I was all in.
You're like, I've been there. I've needed cell phone reception before.
Very
I immediately
relatable
identify
character.
with this bird.
Exactly.
Yeah, so I think that relatable is a really good way to describe this. As soon as you start up the game, it feels nice and cozy. You immediately relate to Claire's deeply horrifying plight of not having cell reception. And so she goes on a little adventure to hike up this mountain and to get cell reception while she waits for her call. Another kind of tertiary part of the story, the main story is very simple. It's not a super long game. You're trying to get cell reception, you climb the mountain, but there are a lot of little tertiary stories revolving around a bunch of the different characters that live on this island, the locals, and they're all really tiny slices, but they're all very interesting. I really like when a story kind of drops you into the middle of its story because I feel like that makes it feel more real. If it's like, if you get a beginning, middle, and end for every single plot point of every single thing, it can sometimes feel like an information overload. And so I really appreciated that for these characters, at least, you just get a little bit of a peek into what's going on in their life and what's important to them. And I thought all of the characters were really charming and fun to talk to and to kind of just get that little slice of what's going on in their lives.
It reminds me of Arrested Development, and there's this breaking moment that blows Michael's case up. And they say they're showing the evidence. They turn on the TV really fast, and then they have to wait through commercials, other stories until it pops up, really breaking that cliche of turning on the TV and relevant information is there immediately. So you're really getting a snapshot into these people's lives. You're just turning on the TV. You don't know their backstory. You don't know what they're doing. It's just you're catching them in a commercial break.
It's a lot more realistic.
Yeah, that's also like an episode of Community where they're all telling the ghost stories, and Abed is telling his, and they're in a cabin in the woods, and he's telling the story, and I think they turn on the radio, and it starts playing music, and then it cuts back to Abed telling the story, and they're like, Abed, get to the point, and he's like, well, it's not really realistic for for this breaking news story to just come on immediately, but I'll go ahead and cut to the chase. So it's the same kind of idea. It's dropping us in right when things are in the middle of it.
Yeah, so like I said, I feel like one of the big parts of the story is really just getting these little bits of the characters around you. Like, there's a person that is, well, not a person, they're all little adorable animals, but a character that's running around and like training for a race. And then you have to do a little thing for them. And a lot of these characters have little things for you to do as well. So you're not just hiking up a mountain. There's a lot of little tiny side things that you can engage in. And what I liked about this is it gave you extra stuff to do to kind of live in the world. Sometimes in video games, it's like, here's a side quest, it'll boost your stats or you'll get new equipment or whatever. But in a short hike, the side, I won't even call them side quests, the little side things that you can do, they're
Vignettes.
very quick. Vignettes, exactly. The little side vignettes that you can do, they're very quick, they're very snappy, and they sometimes will serve a gameplay purpose, but sometimes it's just like, that was cute. Like, and I really appreciate that. Sometimes it's nice to do something just because you want to do it and not because the game is dangling a carrot in front of you. I guess sometimes the carrot is just a nice little story moment.
You want to be charmed, right? That's the incentive.
Yeah. Anyone playing a short hike wants to be charmed. It is a intensely charming game. And so speaking of which, let's jump right into the gameplay section of the discussion now. So gameplay is also, like the story, very simple. Your move set is fairly limited. You can interact with items, you can jump, you can run, you can glide, you can swim, and you can climb. And that's kind of it. So not a super diverse move set, but something that I really like is as you're moving through the game, you collect these golden feathers, and the golden feathers give you just a little, I guess it's like a stamina mechanic. They give you a little bit more stamina, so you can climb a little bit longer on a mountainside, or you can glide a little bit longer before you drop and fall, or you can flap your wings, have an extra double jump so that you can reach a little bit of a higher height. And you get these in all sorts of ways by, again, interacting with a bunch of characters. You can buy them at the general store near the beginning of the game. And so there's lots of little ways that you can acquire these feathers. But I thought that was a smart and kind of a fun way to make the character want to explore the island, to find these feathers so that you can have an easier time climbing the mountain, especially towards the end of the game. The more feathers you have, it can be a lot easier with more feathers. And so gameplay is simple, but really enjoyable. I don't know, guys, what do you think about gameplay?
Does that make it a Metroidvania? Metroidvania
No.
light?
I don't think so. No, because it's really, I feel like a Metroidvania is characterized by getting specific items to unlock specific
the feathers.
pathways. And this one
to climb
one
the
is
mountain.
pretty open. Okay, so Shan's vote is that a short hike is a Metroidvania, which is wrong, but that's fine. He can think that.
Well, much like Lord of the Rings, if you're playing as a bird, why don't you just fly to the top of the mountain?
Well, you
Fly,
can,
you
but you need enough
fools.
Fly,
feathers.
you
You
fools.
fools.
I see. Yeah, that's just my question. It's like, well, why didn't they just fly there the whole time if they could fly home
Because
at
it's
the end?
cuter if they flap their little wings and they
Yeah.
climb.
Listen, the
fledgling.
Eagles need to find golden feathers before they had their own quest to get the golden feathers, like Claire does in this game, so they had enough stamina to make it over the mountains into Mordor. Get
I remember
your
that part of
information
lore.
right.
Yeah.
So this is probably one of my favorite mechanics, just how they gatekeep certain areas, and force you to explore. If it's a short hike, the gameplay is really fast. You can book it to the top of the mountain. Without this mechanic, you could probably finish the game in like 5 minutes. But the fact that they make you explore and kind of earn these feathers to go higher up and explore other areas makes it really charming and fun, and gives you a quick sense of satisfaction. Gives you a quick little dopamine hit for accomplishing something. This is like the perfect game if you just want to feel good about a game and you have a few hours to kill.
Yeah, and I think that there's a lot of fun little side activities. Again, talking about the side activities that you can engage in, and you talk to different characters. There's little races that you can do. You can find these kids who they're playing a little game, and you can play the game with them. And so as you explore, the gameplay is mostly just the, gliding and climbing and trying to get to the top of the mountain. But there's lots of other little things that you can do around the island. And so gameplay simple, but, with a nice steady progression, enjoyable loop. And it's short enough that you're like, well, I just want to see it to the end. I want to see where this goes. It's a game that's pretty easy to beat in one sitting. And I think that the gameplay kind of served that short, snacky kind of a gameplay loop. Any other thoughts on the gameplay?
How many feathers did you finish with?
Gosh, I don't remember.
I probably did minimum. I got about 7 or 8.
Yeah.
I think I was around
I definitely got more than that.
Okay.
My goodness.
I don't even know if that's possible.
Tucker didn't even play the game.
I didn't even play the game. I could barely make it up the hardest traversing with the amount of feathers I had.
Yeah. I played the game through probably 3 or 4 times. I just like that it's so short and it's kind of like comfort food. And I think that the first time I played it, I was really, really exploring. I wanted to see everything, and I got a ton, probably about as many as you can get. So I'm not sure how many that is, 10 or 12-ish, maybe more. And then the subsequent playthroughs, I found myself kind of just doing the same thing because it's a fun game to explore and just, I want to talk to all the characters again. That's half the fun of the game. And so, each time I play, I feel like I'm moderately thorough with the number of feathers that I get.
I don't want to spoil the ending per se, but I do want to say you think that you're starting the story for one reason, that you're there with your aunt and you don't want to enjoy this scenic area, and then it subverts that and you realize it's something more poignant. I actually, in the short amount of time that you're playing this game, it finds a way to warm your heart in a special way.
Yeah, I, again, won't spoil the ending, but I found the ending, especially the first time I played through it, extremely relatable to my personal situation. And I won't say more because I think it's a really nice little game and you all should just play it. So I won't say more, but I mean, it's brought a tear to my eye most of the times that I've played it. It's a very heartwarming ending. And yeah. And speaking of the ending, one of the things that I really enjoy about this game, I guess not speaking of the ending, but one of the things that I really enjoy about this game is when you, it gives you the feeling of playing a much longer game, but in a short amount of time. And I'll explain what I mean. When you're playing a really long, an adventure game or an RPG or something, and you've leveled up a bunch and you're really strong, and then you go back to one of the first areas of the game, and you're like, oh, I remember this place. I remember, yeah, that's the house that I started the game in, and oh, those are the guys, and these are some of the early level enemies or whatever. And I got that same feeling from a short hike. When you hike to the top of the mountain, you have the opportunity to go back down, and then you get back down to the bottom. And I'm looking around, I'm like, oh, I remember this place. And it's so long ago. And it wasn't. It was 2 hours ago. It's not a long game, but it gives you that feeling of playing a much longer game, but in a shorter amount of time. And I'm not sure the psychology of how they made that happen, but I found it really enjoyable and really effective. So, all right, moving right along to visuals and sound, which are a genuine treat as they usually are in all of the games that I cover. I feel like whenever we talk about visuals and sound, I get really excited. And maybe that says something about me and the kind of games that I enjoy. But a short hike is a delight to look at and to listen to. The visuals they're simple. They have really limited kind of geometry and flat pastel colors, but seen through a very kind of chunky pixelated filter. And I like that visual style a lot because it reminds me of playing kind of an old, a DS game. Not a 3DS game, like a DS game when they have those earlier 3D visuals, but you see those big chunky pixels. It reminded me a lot of that and kind of, reminded me of being younger again. Not a kid, because I was not a kid when the DS came out because I'm old. But I really enjoyed that visual style, really bright, beautiful colors. And, I really like the use of color in this game. They picked a really nice, welcoming, kind of warm color palette that is present through the entire game, and it makes it feel this nice and warm and cozy. So I like the visuals. Who's surprised?
Surprise, surprise. I'm not a visual person at all. That's usually one of the last things I notice about a game. But this game just really hits a sweet spot. I love just their use of color in different areas. It makes you really feel like you understand where you are on this island, just based on the color palette in each separate area.
They have multiple biomes.
I would say the visual is extremely important when it comes to video games, because that's one of the very first things that's going to draw you in and even look further into, is this a game I want to play? Is that cover art?
Yeah. I am obviously I really enjoy visuals in games, so much so that it's one of the biggest things that I look for. Obviously, gameplay for me is king. If a game has bad gameplay, it's hard for me to forgive that. But I have played really great games with bad visuals that I have a hard time engaging in. And so it's always nice when a game is just visually nice to look at. It's a really quick and easy way to win me over, is make your game real pretty.
I feel like that's like the hallmark of any indie that really filters up to the top, is the visuals. I mean, obviously, especially pairing that with good gameplay, but I don't know of any indies that filter to the top that don't have great visuals.
Undertale.
Well, I think it was beautiful and like
I think
really
Undertale
lo-fi,
but
it was such like an intentional brutalist design.
No, and it was intentional. The intent was to be ugly.
Mm-hmm.
That's a discussion for another day. But I think that is one very rare example of a game that is deliberately unappealing to look at, but is very beloved and lots of people really enjoy. So.
But not by Eric.
I don't really care for Undertale. I'm going to give it another try. Now I'm replaying a lot of indie games because of this. I'm going to give Undertale another try. But I didn't love it my first time through, so we'll try again and see if it changes. I didn't hate it, but I didn't love it. It didn't wow me like it did everyone else. Anyways, back to A Short Hike. Another thing that deserves special mention is the soundtrack. Soundtrack for A Short Hike is expectedly delightful. It utilizes a dynamic soundtrack, or an adaptive soundtrack, which means that it layers musical melodies and ambient sounds that changes organically based on what the character is doing and what areas that you're in. And so melodies can kind of overlap and flow into each other in a way that makes it kind of flow with the actions. Breath of the Wild does a similar thing, and Tears of the Kingdom, they have adaptive soundtracks. But I think that A Short Hike soundtrack is a little less understated than those games. It is a little more present. And so it's really kind of fun to hear these melodies weave together and all that stuff. It's a soundtrack that I listen to a lot while I work. I really enjoy that one. I listen to it all the time, even when I'm not playing games. It's just good stuff.
Yeah, it's like a spa soundtrack, but that it's a banger.
Yeah.
You're just
like
rocking.
I feel
out
like
to
you're
it.
starting a word, but you're not finishing. Are you trying to say spaghetti?
Yeah.
What is your spaghetti policy here?
And so, yeah, visuals are great. Soundtrack is great. Sound design is also really solid. It's just a great time. So I feel like this is normally where I would talk about the things that I've loved about it, but we kind of already hit all of those notes. It's the, nice visual design, heartfelt story, engaging characters, and just a cute little fly to life story. And
Eric,
I do have one. Oh yeah, go ahead.
What are your cons on this?
What are my cons?
What would turn somebody away from this game? Maybe if they hate puppies and babies and adorableness.
If you hate adorable things, you might not enjoy A Short Hike. No, I think that what might turn some people away is if they're looking for something with a meatier challenge or a longer playtime, because it's not a super challenging game, and it's not very long. So people who enjoy their platforming to be difficult and have challenges might find this a bit lacking in that area. People who want a longer game will obviously find it lacking. The name of the game is A Short Hike. It's only about, it's a 1 to maybe 3 hours if you're really stretching it, but not a super long game.
If you're a common Redditor who needs to brag about your accomplishments to other Redditors about how easy Souls-like games are to you, then this isn't going to be the type
might
of
not
game
be
you
for
might
you.
enjoy.
No need to get good for a short hike. So yeah, those things, if that's not really your jam, you might not enjoy it so much. But if you love adorable things and you like cute stories and things that make you feel good, then it should be right up your alley. Yeah, and so we'll close it off with a fun fact. This whole project was born of an idea that the solo developer name again is Adam Robinson. He was feeling burned out from working on a different game that he was developing, a very large RPG, and to take a break, he started designing some simple landscapes and really using simple geometry and colors. And then he was like, "Oh, I really like this. I should make a whole game." And he kind of built upon that to the idea of feelings of peace and discovery that he had from hiking as a child, and then the central mechanic of going on a hike up a mountain was born. And so yeah, he just was working on something else, got burned out, and decided that he wanted to make something short and little, and it turned into something pretty cool. So way to go. It's a cool game there, Adam Robinson. You all right? Any closing thoughts on a short hike?
Go and buy it.
Go and buy it. It's good stuff.
Game,
it's not an expensive game. Yeah.
The game ended as abruptly as it started, and I laughed really hard at how it ends, and I don't know. You'll enjoy it too.
I know exactly what you're talking about, and it's just great. It's just and there it is.
I was like, there's got to be one or two. There's got to be something else that kind of ends this game. Oh no, it's just over.
That's it.
All right,
it's just over.
That
now.
was kind of funny.
It's
good
similar,
for you. It doesn't need to be more.
Yeah, similar to our outro where it's over. Yeah.
Yeah. Spoiler alert: you get cell phone reception. That's the end.
You get cell phone reception, and then the game just stops. No, just kidding. But yeah, so great game. Go check it out. Like I said, it's not very long. Playtime is about 1 to 3 hours. You can find it on Windows, Mac, Linux, Switch, PS4, and Xbox One. Price is only $7.99, so it's a steal. Go check it out. It's good stuff. All right, everybody. Thank you for joining us today. Remember that you can find our podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Be sure to subscribe and enable notifications so you don't miss any of our new episodes. New episodes of our regular series drop every Monday, and new episodes of Eric's Indie Corner drop every Thursday. If you're listening on YouTube, remember to give the video a thumbs up and write a comment. We love that. Thank you all for listening. We appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us and can't wait to chat next week. Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye.
Outro. Bleepity-doof, bleepity, bloopity, blow.